Hello everyone, Big Seven here, back for another video. Last time you saw me, I was doing some BBL content. Unfortunately, didn't get as much of that out as I would have liked, and that season didn't go as well as I would have liked either. Finished around 2200 in that, so uh, didn't make as much content as I wanted to, especially with like the short periods in between the game weeks. So would have liked to have done a bit more, but didn't manage to do that. Spoke about NFL, I think, in my last video. Ended up second overall in that, which was pretty awesome. And also won the SuperCoach Cup. Put a video out on that with like a bit of a player montage. So that was pretty cool. Well done to Hammy, who ended up winning it all, and uh, he deserved it as well. I was pretty lucky to be in overall contention by the end of the year, so I'm happy. I think I was only about 50 or 60 points going into final week off him, but he deserved it, deserved to hold on. So congratulations to him. But now we'll go into making some AFL content. AFL, I would say, is my bread and butter. Over the past 3 years, it's been pretty good. 2023 had a good starting team. Was around about 100-ish at the buy and made a few bad trades and ran out of trades at the end, so fell out of top 1,000 in the last round. But yeah, got hit pretty hard by injuries as well, although so did everyone else. But a bit of bad trade management and a few bad trade-ins kind of derailed the good start. 2024, that was a very good year. Ended up 72 overall, lost a few ranks in the last round, but yeah, just didn't have enough bench depth. But it was a good season overall. Was sitting around about 1,000 at the 8 round mark. Uh, yeah, got to 152 before the buys. Came out of the buys at around about 100 odd. And yeah, the team was solid. Tristan Sherry was a really good starting pick that year. But ultimately, yeah, just um, didn't have the elite upside that a lot of other teams had. So um, finishing 72 overall was pretty good. That was my second best finish. Best finish in Supercoach being 55th in 2014. So we'll be hoping to fire in another, not another, a first top 50 finish this year. And then last year, my starting team was not good. I thought last year was a really hard year to pick a starting team, and it kind of showed. There were a few dodgy picks in there, and a few bad trades throughout the year, but some really good trades as well. So yeah, before the buys, I was sitting at around about 7,000. Coming out of the buys was at about 800, and yeah, the good trading got me into 163 overall. So look, I kind of need to pull all of those last 3 years together. I need to start well, I need to have a good middle period, and I need to finish well as well. So I think this is the year that I'm able to do it. In terms of a starting team, it looks like there's a lot of value in a lot of players, and I like that. Normally I find there's like a couple of spots where it's like a struggle. It's either pick a player I hate or pick a player I hate. But this year I think is a really interesting year. There's a lot of value across all of the lines except for the ruck line, and the rucks is going to be very interesting this year with the rule changes and potentially, yeah, trying to thread the needle there, pick the best ruck combination. Rucks are normally, I find, the most important position in the game, and this year it'll be even more so. Today I'm going to start off by going through my top 7 premium / breakout defenders. So these are guys that, you know, pretty much all of them are 300k plus, although for the defenders, they're all 400k plus. But these are all players that I think are either going to be top 6 or 8 in their position, or they are going to make 100 to 150k at the minimum. And yeah, these are all players that at this stage I'm starting them. I don't really care what happens with their buys. I think they're just seven very good, solid options that I would be happy holding for this season if it comes to that. So I'm going to do that in order, and I'll start with my. This is my number one defender pick at the moment, and that's Connor Rozee. I didn't start him last year, and I think people that did got pretty lucky with him. A lot of people picked him based off early fixture, and he did okay, but he was underwhelming as a midfielder. And then he got moved back into a halfback role and started scoring well from there. So he's priced at 568K this year after averaging 105 for the year last year. But he did score 110 in the games where he uh, played the majority of the time in defence. So I class that as under 50% CBAs. In some of those games, he was getting some midfield stints, like between 20 to 30% CBAs, but I expect him to be 100% down back. Maybe the occasional midfield stint, like maybe two or three a game if Port Adelaide are looking for a spark. But I think he will be predominantly in that halfback role. And yeah, he scored 110 in that defense role last year. And he is only 25 years old, so I wouldn't say he's hit his peak yet. And it's also a second year in that halfback role. So, and he did move to that halfback role and look pretty comfortable there. But another year, training and learning the position, that can only help him out. So, Connor Rozee at 568K, I think is a bargain, and I don't see myself removing him from my side. Next up, I've got his teammate, Miles Bergman. And he's another young player as well, 24 years old. There's natural improvement in him. Priced at 447K after averaging only 83 last year. But he was a swingman for them last year. And I guess that is a downside of him this year, is that he can play in any position on the field apart from ruck. Last year, he kind of filled in defence last year. They were undermanned back there. But he was unleashed in the midfield a bit. He played 6 games in there and averaged 108 in there. And he just reminds me a lot of how Jordan Dawson looked in, I think it was 23. I think it was 2023 when he moved over from Sydney to Adelaide and then played Adelaide in defence and then moved into the midfield. And look at how that's gone for Jordan Dawson. I think Miles Bergman can have a similar kind of career trajectory. He has shown that he can score in midfield, and yeah, 447K, if he can go between 105 to 110, he's making 100K, and he's probably a borderline keeper. So I'm pretty keen on Miles Bergman. I know some have comped him to Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, and I would rather have Nasiah, but Miles Bergman, all the same, is a very good player, and another one that it would take a lot to take him out of my side. I can understand people that are a bit skeptical with only the 6 games in midfield last year, and because he can be used as that Swiss Army knife. But from what I've heard, Josh Carr is keen on using him as a full-time midfielder. So Miles Bergman, I think, is a very good pick. Another player around that price range is Colby McKercher, 449K, averaged 83 last year, and he is just a pig. Like, whenever he has been in the halfback role, he has no problem getting the ball, regularly getting 30 plus disposals. In that halfback role, he averaged 104 last year. That pretty much happened after the bye. And he's only 20 years old, third year of footy. So there should be some natural improvement in there. I don't think that comes from more accumulation because he's already a heavy accumulator, but that should come from a preseason of playing halfback and better decision making and better disposal efficiency. Because at times last year, his disposal and decision making let him down a bit. And with improved disposal efficiency and better decision making. He can easily go past that 104 in the halfback role last year. I think he can be a top 6 defender. The downside, and it has to be discussed, is that Clarko has shuffled the magnets over the last couple of years. McKercher was really good in that halfback role in uh, his first year. At the start of last year, he was playing more as a half forward and wing for pretty much the first half of the year. And it was pretty obvious that he was a better halfback than like a half forward or midfield. But that didn't stop Clarko keeping him in that half forward wing position for the first half of the year. And it is something that they could do and try and develop him into a midfielder or a half forward. I really hope they keep him down back because that seems like his natural role. I could see him being an okay midfielder in the future, but at 20 years old, just let the kid cook. Let him cook off halfback. North Melbourne need that run and drive out of the fence. And
I'm pretty confident in McKercher as a starting pick. From here, it gets a little bit more dicey. The first 3 players I mentioned, McKercher, Bergman, Rozee, I think those are pretty solidly locked in. And then for me, I'm kind of choosing what combination I want between these last 4 options. And the beauty with the last 4 options I have is they all play an opening round. I think they all have pretty solid upside cases, and I think it will just end up being pick whoever's best out of opening round. But the one I like most at the moment out of those guys is Jack Sinclair, currently at 607,000. Again, playing an opening round means that he has an extra bye, being in round 4 and round 16. I don't care about buys early on in the season. These are players that you want to pick for the entire season. So 1 week of having to cover Sinclair or really any premium that you like, I think will be outweighed by their increased scoring and high price over the year. I think in order to justify someone not having an opening round bye versus having an opening round bye, I think the difference would really need to be negligible, like maybe a couple of points over the course of the season. And I would rather just pick the player that I like, and it is a lot more painful if you fade someone that you like because they have an opening round bye and they end up smashing their price and being a season-winning pick. I won't do it. So Jack Sinclair, 606,600, averaged 112 last year. The downsides to him is he's 30 years old and he could have midfield stints, but we've seen last few years that being 30 years old isn't too bad for a defender. Lachie Whitfield has scored well. He was 30 last year. Zorko's put a few good years together at 33 and 34. So that half-back rebounding role isn't bad for players that are old. And the other downside is that Sinclair, he can be pushed into midfield sometimes, but St Kilda have strengthened through there. They've got Nasiah that can play through there, and they've also recruited Sam Flanders. So I think St Kilda will be a stronger unit in midfield, and that'll leave Jack Sinclair in the back line to pick it up. In games where Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera had 40% CBAs last year, he averaged 118. And over the past 4 years where Sinclair has had, I think it's 5 or more kickouts, I think that I looked at that in the games where he's had 5 or more kickouts, and it's like a 34-game sample over the past 4 years. He averages 115. So, and that would have included games where Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera was also playing in defence and capping his scoring a bit. So, Jack Sinclair, I think, can go 115 plus this year. There are some downsides, like him being 30, and he could play in midfield, and Nasiah playing in midfield could, drift back and take some touches away, particularly if he's getting tagged. But I think Sinclair is a pretty solid pick, and no major concerns starting him. I did just mention Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, and he's a very interesting one. He averaged 115 last year, priced at 622k, and I think he has a pretty wide range of outcomes. He's 22 years old, so you would expect natural improvement from him still, even though last year was a phenomenal year. You still would expect some natural improvement. I'm not 100% convinced that the midfield role will be as high scoring as the defence role that he played for the majority of last year. Last year he played, I think it was 4 games in midfield, and he did average similarly to his season-long average, but there was some soft opposition in there, and also a few big moments. Being a Melbourne supporter, I don't have to tell you what Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera did in that the last minute of that game, but with that included, maybe his average from last year is a little bit inflated. He is a gun though, and with the natural improvement, I think he's a solid pick. A little bit concerned about potential tags, with him, probably being a top 10 player in the competition. So he could get some tags that come his way, but I think St Kilda also have the levers to throw him back into defence, to try and break a tag or get him back into the game. And that's where Sinclair could have those midfield stints, and Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera can be that half-back line breaker that he has been for the last couple of years. So I'm not too concerned about the tags, and not too concerned about the midfield roles. I think he's a very solid pick. I've got Sinclair over him at the moment, but there's not much between it, and I think Nasiah is a very solid pick if you want to go down that route. Another player you can go for is Lachie Whitfield, priced just under 600k, averaged 111 last year. That was also impacted by some terrorism. Adam Kingsley played him a couple of games in the forward line. I think that was because GWS had midfield injuries, and so they were pushing players up from the forward line to play midfield, and they pushed Whitfield forward to cover those forward absences. But in games where he had 3 or more kick-ins last year, and so that basically excludes, I think it was 2 or 3 games in the forward line and 1 game where he got injured on 16. He averaged 119. So the scoring and upside is very much there. And I don't think he'll be randomly shifted back into the forward line again. So he's a player that has scored really highly in the past. There's always something with Whitfield though. It does get a few knocks or concussions or things like that. He's 31 years old, and I'm also not 100% sure if he's going to be the main distributor going out of defence. GWS did seem to hand over the keys to Lachie Ash last year. But I think it's still promising where, yes, they did hand the keys over to Ash last year. He still averaged 119 in those games with the 3 or more kick-ins, and that was the majority of games last year. So I think Lachie Whitfield is a very solid pick. There are a few minor things I would be concerned about, but I really wouldn't have any problem starting him if you're keen on him. And even if he has a big opening round, I would definitely be tempted to get him back into the side. So not someone in my team at the moment, but definitely firmly in consideration. And then the last player in my 7 I have to mention is Whitfield's teammate Lachie Ash. priced at 583k, averaged just under 108 last year. He's still pretty young, 24 years old, so you could see some natural improvement in there, and he has played back for the past few years, but not really as a distributor until last year. So with that second year in that distribution role, he could definitely improve. The things that he needs to improve, I think, are his decision making and execution. There's times last year where he would just kind of bomb it long rather than hitting up a teammate that's like 30 or 40 meters away in space. But I think that kind of improvement can come naturally, and with the second year in the role, he can improve on that. The main thing I have against Ash is I think Whitfield does his job better than Ash does. I think Whitfield, in theory, should be the main guy distributing the ball out of defence. I think Ash does it okay, but if I was coaching GWS, I would have Whitfield as the main distributor and Ash kind of like that secondary guy, but it seems kind of 50-50 at the moment. So for me, it's kind of hard for me to pick him, when I believe that Whitfield is kind of the superior player, but Ash is still relatively young, and with a second year in that distributor role, I could see myself picking him if he has a good opening round, and even if he doesn't, I think he's a pretty solid choice as well, going under the radar as well, only at 5% owned, so I don't mind Lachie Ash if you want to go there. I probably need to see a decent opening round out of him, or even like a bad opening round out of Whitfield, and that would bring Ash into consideration. But I think he's one of the more underappreciated picks, and could be a sneaky pod if you want to go down that route. I'll go into my honourable mentions. So to recap, my top 7 primo / breakout defenders at the moment: Rozee at 1, Bergman at 2, McKercher at 3, and there's probably a tier gap between them and the next 4 being Sinclair, Wanganeen-Milera, Whitfield and Ash. Honourable mentions: Jordan Clark. He's averaged 105 the last couple of years, so I'm kind of wondering if there is another level to his game. He is only 25 years old, so he definitely could improve on that 105 average. And Luke Ryan gets another year older. I think he would be 32 going into this year. So Fremantle could use Clark as more of a distributor, although they kind of did use him a fair bit as a distributor last year. So I'm not sure how much more upside there is in Clark, and especially with Fremantle kind of changing their game plan to be a bit faster and more dynamic, I'm not sure about the upside on Clark, but I could definitely see it working. Tom Stewart, if you've played SuperCoach for more than 2 years, then you know that he is a bit of a burn man. But there's a fair bit of upside to him as well. So he's priced at 500k. Between 2021 and 2023, they were all 105 plus years. And he could get back to that. I think last year he averaged around about 101, excluding the injury games. So there's a bit of upside. He could get back to 105, but the age is a concern, and he also just cops a lot of injuries. So he's not one that I'm going to be picking, but he's one I can see a pretty clear upside case for, and could be a top 6 or top 8 defender. And then the other ones, they're a bit more speculative. Andy McGrath, he averaged 105 in a midfield role last year across 6 games. There was an outlier score in there where he scored 159. And I do expect him to be in defence, but it could be a sneaky one if he gets that midfield role again. Being in defence, I mean, it's not the worst. He averaged 95 as a defender back in 2024. Last year was a down year in defence before getting that midfield role, so he is priced at around about 85 odd. I think he's someone that will probably outperform his price, but not enough to be like a good option. Kind of in that no man's land between like not making enough money and also not being close enough to your top 6 to 8 defenders. Trent Rivers, he's 24 years old, average 90 post-buy. The upside to him is he's still pretty young, and there's been a few Melbourne departures in the midfield. I'm not sure if he's going to play midfield or defence because there's been injuries in the defence as well, but he's someone that I liked in his first couple of years and then hasn't really like kicked on to that next level yet. I think he could do it, but I think I would rather see it before I believe it. I probably want to hear a bit more hype out of him in pre-season and probably a bit more clarity in his role because he's played midfield at times, he's played wing at times, he's played defence at times. I would like to see him kind of stick to a role and get good to it rather than be moved around all the time and miss that continuity. He's someone I could see working, but probably more of a draft pick rather than a starting pick in SuperCoach. Next player is Nick Newman. So fun fact, Carlton's main defender under Michael Voss has averaged over 100 every year except for last year. I definitely didn't get trapped by that last year. But yeah, Nick Newman himself, he averaged 100 in 2023 and 2024. There are some major concerns with him though. He's 33 years old, which isn't a death sentence when you look at what Zorko did back in 2024. But Newman's also coming back from a major injury. Carlton have also got Ollie Florin across from Sydney, and he could be that distributor role or even just siphon a bit from him. But I think the major red flag on him is I don't think he's participated much in pre-season, and coming back from a major injury, it might be someone that starts the year slowly and maybe takes half the year to get back to his best. So not one for me, but there's a little bit of appeal. And then the last player I'll mention, Josh Weddle, 432k. He's just a player that I really like the look of. He's 21 years old. He's just mega talented. Like the way I see him, I think his floor is Nick Blakey, but in the long term, his floor is Nick Blakey, but I could see him being like a top 10 to 20 player in the competition. I was hoping that with the Will Day injury that he would potentially get some midfield stints, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I think he's going to end up being on a wing, which isn't the worst role, but in terms of, hitting that 105, 110 that we want out of a D6 to D8, he's probably not going to hit it this year. He's still pretty raw as well, just lacks a bit of polish with his game, but I really like him as a prospect, but he's probably one for next year rather than this year. So thanks very much for watching. Next video out, hopefully sometime this week, will be the 7 premium midfielders that I like, or breakouts as well, because there's a few underpriced premiums in there. There's a breakout in there as well, and some premiums that I normally wouldn't go for at 600k plus. I normally go under 600k in my mids, but there's a couple of players that I really like in that bracket. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you for the next video, and enjoy your preseason.